Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Musician Guidance Podcast. My name is Mac, and I'm joined alongside very special guests today. They're a four-piece a cappella folk band from the UK with over 100 million streams on Spotify alone, a combined social following of over 600,000, and truthfully, all-around nice guys. Without further ado, everyone, the Longest Johns. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah,
Good,
thanks.
thank you.
Very
Nice
good. Thank you very
guys.
much.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's a
It's nice
pleasure
to
to,
hear.
of course, it's a pleasure to have you guys on. I'm a huge fan, so it's a true honor to have you guys as guests today. And I guess I'm just going to kind of dive into it. For those that haven't been blessed with your music yet, I'd love to give you an opportunity to share, a little bit about the band. Andy, I can pick on you for this. Who are the
Okay.
Longest Johns, and how did the band come together?
The Longest Johns, we are a group of four human males that like to sing folk music and sea shanties. We all started as friends, work colleagues, who were generally involved in music in some way, and we just started singing sea shanties together because we heard them and thought they were cool, and we never kind of stopped. Really, that's the short answer.
Love it. And for those that don't know, what is the sea shanty exactly?
A sea shanty is a traditional folk song, work song that was often used aboard ships to keep the working men in time. They're not used for that anymore, but we like to try and keep it alive, keep the folk history and tradition alive.
Definitely, I love that. And you have an upcoming album coming out too. Dave, what can fans expect from that?
Yeah, the new album is, I mean, I'm possibly biased, but I'd say it's probably our best work to date. We'd certainly put a lot more time and effort into this album just because we had the luxury of being able to do that. But yeah, Smoke and Oakham is it's slightly more American feeling to some of the album, but it's similar to some of our other albums. It's half original, half traditional folk. Some songs that people recognize, like Hard Times Come Again No More, that have been done for years and years by lots of different people. And then, yeah, a few bits we've written ourselves, a nice mix of instrumental and a cappella. We've got a full band on a few tracks. We have a drummer and double bassist that we work with a lot, and some beautiful violin parts made especially for the album. So yeah, I can't wait for people to hear it.
Very exciting. And that's January 28th that's coming out. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. And I know to be in the position of where you guys are today, to be releasing albums, you've put in the hours, and even throughout the journey, the band has changed in terms of members, etc. Robbie, for musicians wanting to join or assemble a band, how would you suggest they get started, and what traits should they look for in potential members in terms of personality, styles, etc.?
It's hard for us to give advice on that, in all honesty, because we all just got together and suddenly started singing at a barbecue. Is the short of it. But we're friends long before that. It's a lot. I think I have come to realize being in a band is a lot like a marriage. You need to kind of talk things through, and you need to be aware that there's, especially when there's four sets of opinions going around on everything, you need to make sure everyone's given the time to be listened to, and you're all going in a direction that you all feel comfortable with and that you want. The music is almost, especially now, we do a lot of things on YouTube and Twitch and all sorts of things. The music actually ends up being about sort of 2% of the overall output. Most of it's rehearsing, videos, traveling. It's a lot of traveling. So you got to make sure those areas are as tight as the music is.
Definitely. And can you talk a little about? Sorry, would you like to add anything there?
Oh, I was just going to say, what I will say if people want to get into it is, there's usually some people where you live that will be doing it and interested in it, but then usually not very easy to find. So if you just dig a little bit, or like maybe join like a local choir or stuff like that, like just wherever communal singing is happening, really, just get involved in that.
Definitely, or like attending local festivals or something.
Yeah, festivals. There'll be usually in a major city, there'll be like sing arounds and singing sessions and a folk scene somewhere. It's not always very easy to find, or like.
Well, let's say
And
let's
if you can find someone with a van, that's really useful as well.
well, let's say an artist isn't coming from a big city. Do you have any advice for them there?
The same sort of thing, really. It's just or if there isn't anything, maybe you could start something up.
Exactly.
You could
There's a
be
lot
the
of
person that
decent
starts it, so-
online. I mean, there's a lot of decent online communities of people who've discovered this music and enjoy it, and then if you join some of those, you might be able to see who's closest and pull something together. A short drive away.
Very true. Rob, you talked about music being like 2% of the output almost. Can you talk a little bit about the other 90%, other 98%, and what that creative process might look like?
Well, the other 98% is sort of an average week for us. We do a video every Wednesday, so that needs to be concocted, shot, edited. We need to go through it and make sure it looks right, and then put it up. And that happens every week. So every week we sort of have to go through that. There's all the rehearsing that goes through it. So every time we do a show, we need to have a rehearsal, or when we do a tour. There's a lot of traveling during those times. We have to go to and from rehearsals, to and from shows. There's these things, so interviews and Skypes and Zooms with various people. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and there's not that the music is any less important by any stretch. It's the most important. It's the thing everything hangs on. But it's sort of expected. I think that band life sometimes is, there's a lot of playing music for some people. Take drug, sex, and rock and roll, that old adage. When actually there's a lot of hard work that goes on behind it that has nothing to do with music, and that the music has to stand on top of.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah, we've spent about 10 years just kind of doing all the singing together and getting together, jamming and that sort of thing. So we've got to a very comfortable point where performing isn't really much of a problem. Learning new stuff, we're fairly comfortable in our systems for doing that. So it gives us a good foundation to be able to, build on all these other things that Robbie's talking about.
That's awesome. And kind of building off of that, and the band having an upcoming tour. How do you manage, or how will you manage to keep up the stamina and stay consistent? I know, as we were talking earlier, when you're performing in different time zones and even in different continents, how do you keep up the stamina? I can leave that question open.
We're still not entirely sure we will. It still remains to be tested. But we had a pretty good tour with Skinny Lister around the UK just before Christmas, and that worked out fine. Probably could have done that for quite a bit longer if we wanted to. But as for multiple dates, several weeks in a row in other countries, it remains to be seen. I feel fairly confident. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. Just need to stay, a little bit more sensible than normal, I think.
Yeah, I think stuff like vocal warm-ups will help with the sustained performing. And then in terms of mental well-being, I think finding time, outside of, traveling and gigs to either, get a bit of peace and quiet to yourself, or maybe we're going to do something fun as a group. But that whole sort of thing, I think, isn't going to take away from the tour. It's got to add to the general feeling of the band, and therefore that'll come across on stage that we're not completely sick of each other yet.
I don't think that's going to happen. You guys have been together for a while. When picking, I guess, what cities to perform in, etc., does that come down to preference, or is it mostly based off data, or where your fans are located, or something else? Andy, I can ask you that.
I think a mixture of both. Mostly, well, we can quite easily look at the data and stuff of us, where a lot of people are streaming from on Spotify and stuff like that. So it's quite cool seeing most of those places be American cities and stuff. But we're obviously, America's a very large place, and we ideally want to go to everywhere really. So yeah, it's a mixture of that. Fans just telling us that they want us to come to their cities and stuff, and like fans telling the local venues and stuff like that was really helpful. Yeah, as it's the first time we've been over to the US, it can be quite difficult to find promoters willing to put us up and stuff like that. But
Right. And you do have a fan here from Canada telling you to come
yeah,
to Canada.
we're definitely going to come to Canada in time.
Right on. And you just briefly touched on it there. Traveling to the US, it can be difficult to find promoters, etc. What's that whole logistical process like too? In terms of promoters, figuring out where to stay, equipment. I guess you guys don't have too much of that, but can you just talk me through a little bit about that?
We've got. You guys go.
I should have singled
got
someone.
to
Who wants...
Sure,
Dave.
yeah. We've got to a fairly comfortable point now where we'd spent quite a few years doing a lot of stuff ourselves when it was mostly invitation only, festivals asking us to come or individual gigs. But now we've got to the point where we've got a great booking agent working for us, finding venues and sorting out logistics. And we have a really fantastic tour manager who comes out with us and sorts out hotels and food and that sort of thing, and also does our live sound for us. So it's definitely gotten a bit nicer these days, that we don't have to worry too much ourselves. We can concentrate a bit more on the music and trust that all these fabulous people have sorted all the details for us.
Definitely. And that's actually kind of a question one of our members have, who seems to be quite interested in the business side of the industry and the behind the scenes of it all. And it was that you guys have massively grown over the last little while. And how has that process been? Were you prepared? Did you have a tour manager? Were there growing pains? Did you already have a team around you, or did you kind of have to build that up as you progressed?
No, it's definitely been over the last sort of year or so, mainly since all the interest around Wellerman. We've sort of started to grow the team. So we got a good manager quite early on who helped us sort of get a record label. And on top of that, the record label gave confidence to the live agency that we've now got. So there's just so many things that we couldn't have handled ourselves, that we've been doing ourselves for so long at not a bad level for amateurs who don't know what they're doing. But there comes a point when the game needs to step up, and we really needed people with experience and charisma to take those things on. And so far, everyone we've been introduced to has been very much that, very experienced, very on it. And I don't know. If you said to me to book a show in Canada, let's say, the first thing I would do is I'd be just looking up venues on Google, and then cold emailing them and saying, "Hi, we're a band from the UK. I can in no way guarantee people will come, but do you want to put us on?" That would be me. So I thank the heavens above that we've got somebody to do that for us now, in not such a begging, grovelly attitude.
And is there kind of a turning point to when you think a musician should, get a manager, get a booking agent, etc.? Maybe like when their creative process is being affected by the business side of the industry. Do you think there's kind of like a turning point there? Andy, I can ask you that.
Yeah, I think there probably is, and I think there's a lot of factors involved, like, because obviously you need to, if people are going to work for you, you've got to pay them. Am I making enough money to warrant paying this person to do this for me, so I can get the time back to put back in, blah blah blah. Really, yeah, I think for us, that point, we kind of got to that point already. We were thinking about trying to look for some kind of booking agent, but we'd never done it before, and had no idea what we were doing. So yeah, it was after all the Wellerman stuff, our management team came on board, and this booking agent were really, really good. But yeah, I think it's always this difficult teetering point between finances and time, really.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. And shifting gears here a bit, artists come to me and say how hard it is to get discovered online, or even just have their content stand out more. But you guys, you're killing it online. Your content's all grown. And you seem to really enjoy it too, through the live streams, the what you did with Wellerman, where you had all the fans come together and sing it. So I want to ask you from the standpoint of an aspiring artist who's trying to grow their audience online, but maybe struggling to gain traction. What advice would you give to them, Dave?
That's obviously quite tricky because obviously in different genres and there's so many different areas you could come at it from. I think a lot of it is finding something new and interesting to do it, or to do it better than anyone else has previously. We were quite lucky coming from sea shanties in that there was this kind of rich wealth of music and fan base and kind of the backstory to the whole community, but it wasn't quite online as much as other things. I think partly because of the age of a lot of the people in the community and fans, maybe less internet savvy, but we were able to bring the experience online. And from that point, once it started, getting interest, and we were able to look at areas of innovation like the gaming stuff and music videos, and kind of constantly having meetings trying to work out new and interesting ways to bring the music to people. It's kind of unfortunate that it's not enough just to be really good at what you do with the music, or writing or performing and that sort of thing. There's always got to be something else that draws people in. So finding a new avenue, an area where the fans who potentially haven't heard your music before can come to that, whether it's through gaming or just interesting videos. Bands like OK Go, who never would have been as big as they were without their really interesting, innovative music videos that brought people to their music.
Definitely. And in order to figure that out, is it kind of just trial and error to see what works and see what sticks with your audience?
Yeah, definitely. There's an element of being able to look at what other people are doing, and without completely ripping them off, you can see what's working for them and what isn't. Get an idea of the kind of thing your potential audience might be looking for.
Definitely. Yeah, there's something I heard called the remix strategy, I think it is, where you kind of take a proven concept, twist it a bit, put your own style on it, and then release it back. And that kind of seems like that seems like the way to go right now. With attention spans being shorter than ever, taking a proven concept, but just twisting it to make it your own. Now, I'm curious to know, and I'll leave this question open to any of you who would like to answer. What are your pre-performance routines like in terms of vocal exercises to get warmed up? And also, do you have any superstitions?
Yes, Dave leads a goat into the room, and Andy's drawn the pentagram on the floor, and then we sacrifice it to Baal, and usually the gig goes well after that. Pre-gig, I don't know. Pre-gig, and a good sound check is essential. We don't really have that many rituals. Usually,
No.
We've been told recently that even our rider is a little dull, and we need to spice it up with something weird. We pretty much just ask for beer and towels.
There's a few little things like not drinking too much before the show, not eating too close, and general things that might affect the singing performance.
Yeah.
But a little bit of warm-ups to get you in the zone. But we're fairly used to what we do by now.
Yeah, we don't really do any proper fancy vocal warm-ups. We have done them before. Some more like maybe if we're in the studio we might do some, but for pre-gig, usually the sound check is enough of a warm-up per se. We have gotten down to the perfect amount of alcohol to have before and during a show, which is I think a pint and a half. Is that what we do usually?
Right?
Yeah. Well, it depends. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because we get a lot of we ask for craft beer specifically on our rider, so now we get little cans of BrewDog that are 330 mils, so that's not really a pint. So now I'm a little stuffed as to trying figuring out ABVs and actual literage of what we're drinking before the show. So we're still finding the balance there.
Definitely. That might change from continent to continent too, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. What would we get in Canada?
Or do you like? We do more maple syrup than beer, but
Oh, just a pint of
Oh,
maple
yeah.
syrup.
just a
Pint of
pint of
that,
maple
but-
syrup. Is that I can have
Yeah,
that
Well,
around.
that's good on the vocal cords. Yeah, how about that? Does that come with pancakes or is that separate?
That's additional. Yeah,
That's additional.
but
The pancakes are additional to the maple syrup, right?
that's right. Exactly.
We
That is gonna about conclude this episode. Before I do that though, I want to give you guys an opportunity to share anything you would like that you maybe you're hoping I was going to ask and didn't, or anything else, or maybe just your biggest piece of advice to aspiring artists. We can even go one by one here, starting with Dave.
I think it's absolutely all about doing what you love. It's like if you want to play music, sing, get into sea shanties or folk or whatever, you should definitely do it. And then if you can spend more time doing that, make a little bit of money, maybe be able to give up your day job, then that's the bonus. But the main thing is coming from doing what you love and being able to carry on doing that. If you have to fund that elsewhere, then if it means that much to you, then that's what you got to do.
Yeah. I was thinking about when you asked about artists and trying to find clever ways to get your stuff out there online and things like that. And I was going to add, at the end of the day, just making sure you're having fun doing it is quite important. Because if people see you are genuinely having fun, they're going to find that entertaining. And if you're sitting there like just doing something that you don't like because you think it's popular, that's not the way to go about it, really. So yeah, just make sure whatever you're doing is something you genuinely enjoy. It's quite important.
Definitely. No, I love that advice. Rob, anything to
It's
add?
it's very difficult to say just because there's so many all the time. There's new avenues popping up, and just being innovative and on top of things. Like we got a TikTok account as sort of a
It was a
well,
joke,
it
right?
seems to be what all the kids are on. It looks fun. We don't have to put too much effort into it because it's all quite handheld and off the cuff. And if we hadn't, then this wouldn't have happened, and I'd probably be back working in a brewery somewhere. Andy'd be back in an office, and we'd be doing it part time. You just never know what's gonna take off, but you got to keep trying new things, trying new avenues. Have a certain amount of business savvy if you have the opportunity. Obviously make good music.
That's real number one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to think that just good music can get you somewhere now, but nah.
It's
you always have to have some kind of scheme.
Yeah, it's a changing industry, right? It's becoming more about numbers, hype, and the anticipation you can create, unfortunately. But we got
I keep seeing bands, and I know Andy, me and Andy were talking about this. Seeing bands with sort of a couple of thousand monthly listeners and whatnot on Spotify,
Oh, yeah.
and 300 odd hits on a song, and we're just like, these guys are amazing. How has nobody heard of them? And I keep the bigger we get, the more I keep finding bands and going, oh man, there's no way we're as good as them. But
Yeah, I know, right? I keep looking at musicians that I really look up to and I think are the best things in the world. And then I'm like, oh, but like, yeah, and like the numbers of our music is like way above. Just really weird to me.
Yeah. I'm not saying that in a cocky way either. It genuinely
sure.
flummoxes me. But at the end of the day, you gotta put yourself out there and do new and innovative things to try and get yourself more eyeballs on you.
Mm-hmm.
That's
100%.
as much as I can say for advice.
No, 100%. That's great advice too. I think that's so true. That's what it is exactly. Now that is going to wrap up this episode, but before then though, I just want to let all our listeners know that you can follow the Longest Johns on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, and YouTube with the handle The Longest Johns, as well as listen to their new album, which is out January 28th. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, and I look forward to talking more with you. And in the meantime, though, that is going to conclude this episode, and we'll be back with another very soon. Take care, everyone, and remember, you can and you will achieve whatever you put your mind to. So keep working hard, Keep making music, and I hope to see you living your dream very soon. Take care.